Thank you, Kelly. Good morning. My name is Julie Lasher, and I serve as a business relations specialist in the southeast area of the state. Today's presentation is on boosting engagement in employee resource groups. Presenting alongside me today is my colleague, Allison. Would you like to introduce yourself and explain the accessibility features of today's webinar?
Thanks, Julie. My name is Allison Jones, and I am the Career Development Specialist. I serve in the southeast area of the state. Now, at OOD, we plan for accessibility from the start. For example, we use the accessibility checker that is built into Microsoft 365 to review the resource guide and the PowerPoint. We address color contrast, font style and size, and we add alternative text, known as alt text, to any visual images. Also, in our delivery, we will mention each other by name as the conversation goes back and forth to indicate who is speaking. This can be helpful for attendees who are receiving this information through services like American Sign Language interpretation or live captioning. After the webinar, we edit the transcript and fix any captioning errors before uploading the webinar to our on-demand library. We also include a reasonable accommodation statement in our invitation to the webinar, so if attendees need an accommodation, they know who to contact to ask. Taking these steps up front can make this presentation more accessible and inclusive for everyone.
Allison, today's webinar was created as a response to the overwhelming feedback from a previous webinar, Building and Leveraging ERGs. In that webinar, we discussed why it's important to start a disability-focused ERG. For a refresher, a recording of that webinar can be found in the Information for Employers page of the OOD website, and a link is being provided in the chat for your reference. Today, in Boosting Engagement in Employee Resource Groups, we'll share information about what steps are needed to plan and create a disability-focused employee resource group. We'll cover the importance of organizational leadership to start a disability-focused employee resource group and share best practices. And finally, we'll share ways to secure, maintain, and increase staff engagement in the employee resource group. Allison, can you start us off with a refresher on what an ERG is?
Sure, Julie. So simply put, an employee resource group, or ERG, is a group of employees with shared interests, identities, or backgrounds. The goal of an ERG is to establish an atmosphere that fosters inclusivity in the workplace. Through organized activities, employees will connect and interact and support each other. They'll contribute to a more inclusive and engaging work environment. Now, we have a question that we'd like to pose to our audience. What type of employees might be interested in participating in a disability-focused ERG? So you'll see a poll question on there, and the choices are employees who identify as having a disability, employees who have a family member with a disability, employees who care about their loved ones and want to foster an inclusive work setting, or all of the above. Go ahead and take a quick moment to enter your answer into the chat now. All right, we see some results coming in. Oh, it looks like 100%. Excellent. Yes, the answer is all of the above, definitely. The choices on that poll were just 3 types of employees who might be interested in participating in a disability-focused ERG. But we must also remember that there are lots of other employees who want to be included, those who want to be an ally for others, or employees making a concerted effort to focus on their allyship skills to support people with disabilities. And today we'll talk about lots of ways to tap into that. So, Julie, can you tell us about how an ERG's mission statement and goals can help boost engagement?
I can, Allison. To effectively boost engagement in the ERG, it's important to ensure the group's purpose resonates with the demographics of the employees involved. This alignment fosters a relatable environment that encourages participation. Additionally, another key aspect is the name of the group, as it plays a role in attracting and retaining members. It is a good practice to choose a clear name that will resonate with the group members versus a complex or lengthy name to avoid unintentionally excluding potential members. Ensuring that the group's purpose, alignment, and name of the group are important so employees are attracted to the group, feel welcomed and represented, and ultimately want to engage in activities. The next area we want to focus is leadership involvement. It is essential to have upper management or leadership support in the ERG for their backing and direction. By enlisting leadership, they serve as mentors, promote involvement, facilitate growth opportunities, and ensure fair representation. The ERG benefits from the guidance and the support, and leadership also may assist with the ERG alignment in the company's objectives, along with facilitating decision-making processes of the group. Collaborating with leadership in this manner strengthens the group, and their presence demonstrates the company's dedication to the importance of inclusive initiatives.
Julie, those are all great points. And as you know, organizational support can help with staff engagement too. This can include assistance with identifying staff who can serve as mentors to others in the group, leading and assisting with the meetings and activities directly, deciding if roles are assigned to specific members or if they're developed by a committee, and providing just general oversight and guidance. Now, we also know that sometimes employees can be reluctant to join an ERG for fear of being labeled or judged, particularly with disability-focused ERGs. Leadership support and involvement with the ERG can help alleviate that fear. Support of others within the organization also helps with facilitating the structure of the ERG. So this might look like approving the ERG's policies, procedures, and practices, assisting with securing funding for the ERG, supporting and approving the group's budget, providing guidance on the types and number of activities that are offered, promoting engagement, of course, and this all assists with alignment to the company's broader DEIA initiatives. Now, it's important to promote and encourage involvement in a disability-focused ERG by removing any potential barriers that may be hindering that engagement. Encourage your managers and senior leadership to support staff's participation. The involvement from leadership can set the professional tone for valuing growth and increasing employee engagement. Allow open membership to any staff at all time in their career, from newly hired staff to more tenured employees. Encouraging all employees at any stage can lead to a more empowered and engaged workforce. Now, managers and senior leaders can also show support by formally recognizing ERG accomplishments, utilizing the skills and expertise of the ERG members, so they in turn can be subject matter experts. They can assess accessibility of the business's products and services. They can also be consultants and do that consulting to review business policies and procedures, looking for accessibility and inclusion. Leaders can also recognize that participation in an ERG can allow staff to make meaningful contributions outside their normal work duties. This all fosters a culture of inclusion and continuous learning.
Thanks, Allison. Now let's shift focus of today's webinar to our guest panelists. Our panelists will be sharing their insights and experiences on what has worked well within their respective organizations and how their employee resource groups are supported by leadership. So I'll share a short bio for each of our panelists, focusing on their work and their organization's ERGs. And our panelists' full bios were included in the webinar announcement. So to get started, Seema Patel is a program manager in quality improvement with responsibilities in accreditation and quality space. She currently serves as Buckeye Health Plan's DEI Council Chair and participates as a member of 6 EIGs. Dawn Gibson is a Director of DEI Integration at Centene. She provides oversight for Centene's 6 employee inclusion groups, or EIGs, which have an employee participation rate of more than 25%. Her work to drive the company's external communications and reporting strategy for DEI initiatives has led to more than 25 industry recognitions over the past 4 years. Nichelle Mather is a transition specialist and independently licensed social worker at Nationwide Children's Hospital Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders, CASD, in Columbus, Ohio. She is also co-chair of Capable. And Hillary McGowan is a business process improvement specialist at Nationwide Children's Hospital. In 2017, Hillary partnered with another employee at Nationwide Children's Hospital to start the disability-focused capable employee resource group. And she served as the co-chair for 4 years and is now co-chair emeritus and helps onboard and support new leaders in the Capable ERG. Capable's core mission is to support employees that have disability and to help make Nationwide Children's Hospital more accepting, accessible, and inclusive. Allison, could you start us off with our first question?
Sure, Julie. To start us off, we'd like to hear first from Dawn, and then Seema, then Nichelle. It's clear your organization supports your ERGs. Could you share how your leadership team is directly involved with that support? So, Dawn, if you'd like to start.
Sure. And first, good morning, everyone. So before I dive into the EIG part of the answer, I do just want to take a quick moment and talk about why DEI is so important to Centene, because it really is ingrained in the business at every opportunity. It's more than just a buzzword or something to check the box. We really understand that in order for us to serve the members the best way we can, we really have to understand them and bring all of those perspectives to bear in the way that we operate. So our EIGs are so very important to us. And thankfully, we have leadership support starting with our CEO. And that trickles all the way down through our management chain. So we have executive leaders that serve as sponsors for all of our EIGs, including Ability. They participate in our mentorship program, so they help develop talent across the organization. They also participate in any of the events that our EIGs have, so they may come in as panelists, speakers. Sometimes they even help coordinate and publicize those events. And then in addition, we have an external disability council. It is our CENDAC. It's called CENDAC. It is our National Disability Advocacy Council. And what they do is they provide, counsel to the company on how we can just be better across all of our activities, and our Ability EIG partners on initiatives as well.
Excellent. Seema, would you like to add on to that?
Yes, absolutely. We are actually very fortunate here at Buckeye, and just kind of really connect with what Dawn just actually mentioned, is that our leadership support truly does come from the top. Centene is very, very committed in really creating that culture of togetherness. Steve Province, who is our CEO here at Buckeye, really understands how important us having that cohesive unit is just such a value to the company. And it really then helps us start to understand each other. And I think that's the most important part, right? And understanding what we always say is, understanding DEI is in our DNA. And that's so vital to the work that we do. So what we do is bringing that education through our EIGs is what we call it, which is our employee inclusion groups, really helps us build that culture that we're really trying to get here at the company. So kind of is very similar to what Dawn had mentioned. Our CEO, he actually is the executive sponsor for our council, but then each of our EIGs also have executive sponsors that sort of really kind of support the different groups that we have. And they all come from our senior leadership team. So the executive sponsors do come from that. And they just really, exactly what Dawn mentioned, is just, they help, they assist, they help break some barriers down if there's any barriers for our EIG chairs. And then it kind of goes down the line, to our directors, our managers, our supervisors. They help create and open that space up for our staff to be able to attend and to participate and to be part of these different ERG groups, so that we can make sure that they're also truly getting the value and benefit of what is intended to occur. And in the end, if we are better as employees and people, we are able to now move that towards our members that we take care of in the community. So,
And before we jump to Nichelle, I think one thing that we've both been hinting around is that leaders provide funding, not just space and time, but there's also funding, because we need funding to make sure that these initiatives get off the ground.
And we're
Absolutely.
very similar here at Nationwide Children's. All of our ERGs have an executive sponsor. Ours for our capable group is our vice president of behavioral health, and she's a parent of an individual with a disability. So she really understands our group and our goals. We have monthly check-ins with her. She's able to provide context and resources that we might not be aware of, just being at the senior leadership level that she is, which is really helpful. And then we have an inclusion and culture team that oversees all of our ERGs, and we all of us get a budget from that group, which is amazing.
Thanks so much, Nichelle. And while we're on that line, Nichelle, I'll keep you going here with questions. We know that Nationwide Children's has utilized employee inclusion groups in recruiting and hiring efforts. Would you share how this came to be and what some of the results were?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we really want Nationwide Children's to utilize us, our capable ERG, to help with recruitment. That's one of our goals, is to increase hiring practices of people with disabilities, make it more inclusive, all that. But we partner with our talent acquisition group, and we have been able to kind of create a partnership between our TA group, our talent acquisition group, and OOD. Julie has been amazing in that process. But if we know someone's applying through OOD can reach out to our talent acquisition group, give them a heads up, and then they're able to give that manager tips for interviewing, talk about resources that OOD can provide. And then we as capable are available as needed to answer questions and help with any, onboarding, accommodations process questions that they might have. And then lastly, I would say HR encourages us to attend recruitment events. They want our ERGs to be front facing, which is really important too.
Excellent. Now, we've started discussing the ways that organizations are promoting ERGs within the workplace, and we'll offer more ideas of that throughout the webinar. Dawn and then Nichelle, could you please share a couple strategies that your organizations have used to do this promotion?
Sure. And I think I can circle back to just first that leadership involvement. It is so very important that you have your leaders promoting and sharing this information around all of the EIG activities. And I imagine that organizations, the leaders are pretty visible, whether they're sending out emails or showing up at different meetings, participating in town halls. And we encourage our leaders every opportunity to share information about our EIGs. We also just leverage some of the channels that our employees naturally participate in. So whether that's doing things on the intranet, we have a newsletter that comes out every week, and just all of those natural places where, communication is already happening. You want to make sure that your EIG information is getting into those. And I think the last place is our EIGs do have a special platform. So our members who sign up for each of the EIGs, they get special messages that come through that platform on a regular basis as well. So we want to try to hit them at every opportunity, because we do not want to hear that people didn't know about something. We want to make sure that we share the information as often as possible.
We are similar here at Nationwide Children's. Our ERGs are promoted from day one. They get information about them at orientation, but as we all know, you get a lot of information at orientation, so it can be overwhelming. So we want to make sure that we're hitting people at different times in their career here. So we go out to any department that will ask us to come out and talk about our ERG. And then ERGs are very present at anything within the hospital. If there's events happening, they tend to have tables that we can go and promote our ERG to. And then we also work a lot with our marketing team. So marketing will come and take pictures, post on social media. We also have hospital-wide emails that go out. We have virtual bulletin boards throughout the hospital. And then lastly, one thing we've learned that's been really helpful is we all wear badges at the hospital. We were able to make these little badge buddies that says capable of amazing things. It has information about our group. Our other side promotes our Project Search program, which is our internship program for individuals with disabilities. So that's just been a way, as people are talking, they can say, hey, what's capable, and have that discussion.
Thanks, Nichelle. Our next question is for Dawn and then Hillary. We understand there are professional development opportunities available to members of your employee inclusion groups. Can you share what type of opportunities there are have been for members and how those were developed?
Sure. And I think one of the things that we'll talk about, I think, in the second half of our discussion today is about how to connect with members and understand their needs. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about that right now, but surveying is so important. I think that each of us may have an idea on what our employees are looking for, but we don't really know until we talk to them in some way. So those surveys are extremely important. So we use a lot of information around that to develop what those programs might look like. And so based on that, some of the things that we're currently doing is I mentioned our mentorship programs earlier. Each of our EIGs, including Ability, which is our EIG for individuals with disabilities and caregivers, has a special mentorship program. So you can sign up regardless of your ability, regardless of your leadership in the organization, so that you can learn more about what it is that the needs of that community and what they have. So we've got those across all 6, and they are extremely popular. And then 2 years ago, we started a career development workshop in partnership with our people team. And it became so popular that now it is an enterprise-wide activity, which we're really excited about. So it's called Fall into Development. We do it every fall from September to October. There are 4 workshops around things, whether it's building your brand, understanding how to navigate the career development system within Centene, performance management, how to write your reviews, how to spruce up your resume, how to take any experience that you may have and craft that information so that you stand out for that next opportunity. And I think one of the biggest things, because I was talking about funding earlier, is that Centene does fund our DEI Summit. So we have a summit every year where we bring in leaders from across the organization so that they can learn more about DEI. We give them opportunities to interface again with that leadership. I just cannot say enough how important that is. And I think Seema's nodding, and we may talk about this more again later as well. We have something called our DEI Awards. So we've got, I think, about 7 or 8 different awards that we give out around advocacy, DEI councils, and those have become just increasingly competitive year over year because people want to learn more. And then once they learn more, they institute more and they start to do more across the organization. So those are just a handful of things that we do. And I probably could go on until 10, till 10 o'clock my time, but I know that we have so much more information to cover.
Thanks, Dawn.
Great.
Hillary? Yeah.
A lot of things that Dawn mentioned, Capable also is a part of. I would add in that surveying members is fantastic. We offer Capable offers and builds education opportunities based on membership interest. Another thing is we can tap into the other professional development opportunities other ERGs are doing. An example is our military ERG hosts meet and greet with different vice presidents. So we always invite our Capable membership to attend those as well. Another example is our lead ERG, which is our young professionals ERG. They partner with talent acquisition to give resume and interview tips. And so we always share that information with our members.
Excellent. Thank you.
Go ahead,
we did
Allison.
have 3 pre-submitted questions to this webinar. So the first one we'll direct to Dawn. How do you engage ERG members and potential members who are not able to read or don't have access to email?
Oh, and I remember when you all shared this question with me, I took a deep breath and I'm going to take it again. I will say that is something that our organization is continuing to explore. We have team members who are in our call and claim centers, and so they have a very regimented schedule because they have to answer calls and respond to, whether it's provider, requests or member requests. And we also have a fair amount of employees who are out day to day visiting our members. So they do not have an opportunity to be on the phone or be on their computers. And again, I think it is understanding how your employees operate day to day and tapping into those already established lines of communication. So is there a team huddle that happens either daily or weekly or monthly where you can share this information about EIGs? Is there an opportunity where they're doing training and perhaps you can carve out 10 or 15 minutes so that people can learn about the DEI efforts in your organization? Is there an opportunity for you to record some of the sessions? So if they do have some downtime, they're able to come back and listen to those sessions. They may not be able to have access to email day in and day out, but if you start to integrate these things into the way you operate daily, then perhaps it starts to become a little bit more natural and people have an opportunity to participate. One other thing that one of our call centers is exploring is setting off or carving out 8 to 10 hours a year for people to participate in, whether it's DEI activities or other leadership training. And so at that point, they've got an opportunity to schedule that time and they can use it to catch up on some of those videos perhaps that they missed, or if there's a live event coming, they can plan for it.
Thank you, Dawn. Our next pre-submitted question is for Hillary. What suggestions do you have for overcoming leadership reluctance to support the creation of ERGs within your organization?
Thanks, Julie. I hate that we have to have this question answered, but it is a reality. So there are actually two things I would recommend. The first is that start gathering information and build a business case. There's a lot of helpful information on the internet shared by OOD and other organizations. I would encourage you to tailor your business case to align with the mission of your organization. There are financial benefits, there are value benefits, and then there are also employee engagement benefits to creating a disability ERG. You can highlight all of those and it can really build your case. The second thing is to start talking to other employees or existing ERG co-chairs on how they started their ERG, and gather names of who would be in your ERG if it was to be started. Our organization already had a process that we could tap into to create our ERG, but a piece of that was gathering 10 staff members anywhere in the organization who would agree that the ERG is a good idea. So I'd start there.
Great. And now our last pre-submitted question will direct to Nichelle. Have you found that hosting ERGs and building more engagement opportunities, has that increased staff retention?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say we personally do not have data on this. However, we believe so. There is professional data available on a general stance about that, and it does seem that increased engagement leads to staff retention. For us, we have some, anecdotal data that people will say, working with us at Capable and helping them understand the accommodations process has helped them become successful in their job and help them stay. Additionally, for our leadership, I would say it's helped individuals stay in their positions as well, because we're able to showcase leadership skills, build new skills, and keep them moving in this organization. And then lastly, I would just say it's a way to feel connected to the organization. For example, my office is not located at our main hospital. So being part of this ERG and being part of the leadership group really makes me feel connected to the main hospital, even if that's not physically where I'm located.
Great. So now we'll break. If you have any, we'll pause for questions here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat for us.
All right, we will keep an eye on that, but we'll keep on moving through the webinar.
Yeah, we'll have a chance again at the end to answer questions. So if you think of something, please feel free to put it in there and we'll catch it at the end here. So thanks, panelists, for your insights and our audience for your questions. We'll hear again from our panelists towards the end of our session, and we'll also take more questions at that time.
Now, Julie, we've discussed some steps to starting a disability-focused ERG, and we've talked about the importance of leadership support. But let's talk a little bit about how ERGs can benefit employees directly. So we know that participating in a disability-focused ERG provides members the opportunity to develop programming that is in line with their personal, their professional interests, and this can really showcase a skill or ability that those employees may not have an opportunity to highlight as part of their regular job activities. Staff can also develop leadership abilities, we've mentioned that already, by mentoring other members or serving in a lead role or a board position within the ERG. And finally, ERGs, in particular, disability-focused ERGs, allow employees to feel that sense of connection and community and belonging. That allows them to bring their whole self to work each day. Now, Julie, can you share some additional ideas to help ERGs boost employee engagement?
I can, Allison. Regular communication is another key element ERGs can use to boost employee engagement. So whether it's through regular meetings, emails, or scheduled announcements, consistent communication helps build awareness of the ERG and can prompt participation. Want to involve members in the promotion of the ERG? ERG members can often have great ideas and unique perspectives on what will appeal to their colleagues. Encourage collaboration to identify and use communication tools already in place. Consider promoting upcoming meetings and events to ensure information is timely and sent to where all employees can have a chance to know about upcoming events. Modes of communicating opportunities or activities can be placed in things like a company newsletter, your organization's intranet or virtual bulletin board, or on social media. To keep staff engaged, it's important to maintain a consistent flow of communication and updates, and this can create and maintain the sense of enthusiasm.
Excellent. So those are all great ideas, Julie. And a disability-focused ERG can collaborate with other ERGs in the organization. You heard one of our panelists mention that. That allows members to connect with staff that they may not normally get a chance to work with, and it builds upon the success of both ERGs. Now, programming is key for ERGs. You want to develop programming and events that are aligned with the ERG's values and purpose statement. This is a great way to keep members engaged and build that feeling of community within the group. Creating a calendar of events is helpful, so there's structure to that. When creating a schedule, be sure to strike a balance between planning ahead, but also keeping in mind the communication pathway. You want to ensure enough time is given to produce and post announcements. Also keep in mind the format of your meetings to boost engagement. If in-person meetings are difficult for members to attend, or employees are at different locations within the company, consider having virtual meetings. Involvement from OOD can help in programming, which is a great way to weave into the calendar of events. We have two main resources that can really assist ERGs and the company overall. The first one is our business relations team. We regularly facilitate disability etiquette and awareness trainings for organizations as a whole, as well as for ERGs in particular. So if your ERG would like to have our team join you virtually or in person, contact your original business relations team specialist to get started. Their contact information can be found on the OOD website in the Information for Employers page. Now, disability-focused ERGs can be a valuable resource to ensure meetings and events are accessible to everyone, including your employees with disabilities. So if you want to ensure accessibility of these meetings, we recommend reviewing the OOD checklist, which can be found on our website on the Accessible Ohio page, and we'll put a link in the chat now too. So using this checklist as part of your planning ensures your members and staff have what they need to be able to participate fully in the ERG's meetings and events. Now, the second thing we can do is we have our Accessible Ohio team. They can be of assistance. Excuse me, so please reach out to us. Your regional Accessible Ohio specialist contact information can be found on the Accessible Ohio page of the OOD website. Now, to increase group engagement, please consider infusing interactive elements alongside meaningful discussions as a way to really make membership fun. We all know that when staff have the opportunity to engage in a positive and uplifting way, they want to keep that up. So some appropriate social activities can help achieve that. One example of this would be to have a welcome reception to recruit new members, share photos of activities, and be ready to talk with others about the purpose of the group and extend invitations to participate. A great way to pique the interest of potential members, along with keeping current ERG members engaged, is to celebrate the ERG's successes. This could happen a variety of ways. Maybe you preview upcoming events that the ERG is sponsoring. Maybe you provide a recap or report out on events that have already happened and share specific stories and pictures. And most importantly, highlight the members' achievements. Now, these celebrations of success can happen in various forms, but they're important as they can showcase members, group accomplishments, and provide a glimpse into the sense of community to inspire others to get involved. Julie, can you talk about some ways that ERGs can measure their success?
Allison, it's critical to measure the success of your ERG and report those results to your organization's leadership. You want to recap the ERG's work, efforts, and successes over the prior year. And some benchmarks to consider, including our total number of members, number of the new employees added to the ERG's membership over the past year, and the total number of events sponsored compared to the previous year, the number of all staff who have attended these events, and member satisfaction, and the number of members who actively engage within the ERG. Understanding the importance of measuring success is essential, and you can recap, review, and analyze data from group activities and membership and use the information in a variety of ways. Measuring may help track progress or membership over time, recognize growth opportunities, or serve as a way for continuous improvement to overcome barriers the group may encounter. And now let's welcome our panelists back for some more questions.
All right, and I see that some questions have come into the chat, so let's start with these, and I will ask the question and see which panelists would like to kind of claim that first. So the first one I see here is, are there technology resources you recommend, like from Microsoft?
I'm happy to give this one a shot. I would suggest maybe tap into what your organization or computer platform already has that you use. I feel like Microsoft is doing a good job of building in accessibility features. But adding new tech is typically very difficult from our perspective. I do think OOD does a great job of modeling virtual and hybrid events and making them accessible. So, and I think somebody put an accessible meetings link in the chat.
Great. So let's go to the next one here. Disclosure or labeling is an issue sometimes that individuals joining ERGs focused on disabilities. Do you have any tips for overcoming that perception?
I can take that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Dawn.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. I'll make space for you too. So I think a couple of things. One is establishing what the EIG is meant for in the first place. And I think it's really important to come from a place of empowerment and a place from learning and education and collaboration. So for us, ability is about how can we all work together, one, to make each other better, but also to make Centene better. Our executive sponsors, we have a combination of individuals who are open about having a disability and others who say that they are allies, because we really want to talk about how this group is not focusing on the disability part. It's really about making accessible spaces for everyone. And I think also just the combination of programming that you have to show that to really think about what the mission of your group is. It's not about focusing on the disability so much as it is about learning how we can all work together and all of our abilities can shine. And I think the last thing I'll say is we do have a self-ID campaign as well, because we do, as part of our requirements, have to disclose that to the U.S. government. So we talk very carefully about how we are careful with that data, and we only report it in aggregate, and that we do not specifically share, oh, this person has a disability, or this, this person has this. We take very good care of that data, and we respect the confidentiality of it.
I would just add that joining the ERG is not self-disclosure, because we are open to family members, caregivers, people that are just passionate or care about this work too. But I think once people are involved and they see the positive response of other people disclosing, that it can lead to more disclosure. So I think we kind of answered one of the other questions too, of how do you balance focusing abilities at the same time of referencing disability. I think, like Dawn said, our standpoint is disability is not a negative word. We want to celebrate that everyone has a variety of skills and abilities, but it is a form of diversity and it's important to talk about. So we think if we use the word disability more openly, it would hopefully have the opposite connotation at some point.
Absolutely, normalize it. Love that.
Yeah.
Now, this next question, how do you increase the responsiveness for surveys?
I can take that one. For what we do at Buckeye, and really we see this even through our enterprise, right, is really utilizing that leadership support that we have to get them to also communicate the importance and the value of, having your say, right? That's what surveys are about, is truly your spot to have your say, whatever that may be. And so we utilize it where we have our 10A kind of comes down the line, where we'll have them in huddles, we have them in meetings, we bring it up that, hey, don't forget to make sure that you do it. And I think a lot of times folks, they'll see a survey come across and they might be in the middle of something. And so they're like, yeah, I'll get back to it later. And I think those reminders and a personal reminder, not something from email, but somebody, your leader telling you that, or a coworker saying, hey, don't forget to respond to that. Those type of conversations and that collaborative work that we do really seems to help boost that responsiveness in just getting folks to fill them out.
Yeah, and one quick thing I'll add to that is it's also about what you do with the information. If you are in a organization where you constantly take surveys and your employees are not seeing any of the benefit of sharing that information, they will get burned out and they will not fill out that survey when it comes across their desk the next time. So just making sure that you remind them that their feedback is heard, it is used, and when you use it, say, hey, this was in direct response to feedback we received, so that they know you're listening.
Great. So our next question, I hope I'm going to interpret this correctly. It says, how do you find member achievements appropriately? So I'm assuming we talk about all those professional development opportunities and things that, participating in an ERG can help with. So I'll leave this up to you guys to jump in as to how you identify those successes.
I'm wondering if this is similar to a question that you already have cooking for us.
Yeah.
So I suspect when we get into the questions that you've got for us, we may answer this.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, the next one we've got here in the chat is, what was the starting process for an ERG focused on disabilities and allies? Was it proposed by management or started by employees?
I can take this one. This is Hillary from Nationwide Children's Hospital. Our organization had other ERGs previously, so we were able to model that same process, which was housed with our diversity, equity, inclusion team. But it was definitely a grassroots effort from myself and another staff member. We had just been talking and we really identified a need. It was not a manager or the organization saying we needed a disability ERG. And I do think the grassroots effort was more effective for our organization.
Great. Allison, do we want to move on to our questions now?
Sounds good. So this first one, Seema, let's direct this to you. Now, we all know that groups need to adapt to changes over time in order to stay relevant to business goals and the ERG members. Could you tell us how your EIG has managed those changes?
Yes, absolutely. We try to be very intentional about the work that we do through our employee inclusion groups, right? We try to make sure that we're bringing that value to our employees, that then they can use that and incorporate that into their day-to-day work, because that's really the goal, right, of doing that. So one of the things, we annually create a strategic plan that incorporates our business goals. I mean, that's incorporated in the plan, as well as brings in that needs of the member. And we really make sure that we're connecting the dots from our EIG space to the value of the education that we bring to the employees, which then in turn benefits the managed care members that we work with, really by having that increased understanding, and then can provide more of that enhanced services and assistance. But with the changes and things that occur, and especially for those that are in the healthcare industry, we know changes are constantly occurring, and honestly, I'm seeing it in almost every industry now. But with having that leadership support, they really do help us keep a pulse on the changes that are occurring. And since they're involved with our ERG groups, that we really have that line to that information. And when you have that line to that information, you can then bring that into your programming, so that we do stay relevant. We're doing and creating programming that makes sense and adds value to the things that need to be done on a daily basis for our members. And I think that's really where we truly manage to keep that going moving forward for our group.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Dawn, would you share with us what surprised you about the way in which your groups have matured?
I don't know if it is a surprise, but I think it is something that I'm happy to see. And one of the things that I started our conversation with this morning is saying how important DEI is to the business. And if we work these perspectives into our business every day, we just continue to get better. I actually just received an email this morning. There is a group within our organization that is starting to look more at supporting caregivers. So the family members of our members who are taking care of them. And we just got an email this morning that they would like Ability, or members of our Ability EIG, to participate in forming and helping to shape and improve that program. So right there is a very specific business objective that's being met. So I love seeing how all of our EIGs are continuing to affect the business in positive ways. I think the continued growth of our EIGs is always very exciting to see. I joined the DEI group back in 21, and we were at around 14 or 15% of our employee population participating in EIGs. And we're now up to 25, 26%. So again, that is wonderful to see that the needs and that the desire and people understand that these groups are really important. So I love seeing that. I love seeing the idea that we're also, maybe, I don't want to say not doing enough, but I think that there's just this desire for more. And we're learning that there may even be an opportunity for us to have different types of groups. So maybe not something that's an EIG. I like to call it bigger than a bread box, but smaller than an EIG. So is it, groups that really focus on neurodiversity, or parents groups, or physicians at Centene? So we're starting to explore what that might look like in the coming months and into next year.
Fabulous. Now, this next question is for first Hillary and then Seema. Could you tell us about the ways that your ERGs allow staff to showcase the skills and talents they have that may not be apparent in their daily work? Could you share a couple specific examples?
Yeah, I'll share two things. I'd say growing our leadership outside just the general co-chair role has allowed some folks to really lead in areas that is not their primary job, but that they're passionate in. An example is we have got a mental health caseworker who wanted to really focus on building connections with other staff members. And so we helped him kind of create a smaller level group meeting and develop a format that really met his interest and was really beneficial for the entire membership. Another example is we have a member who, in their main role as a site director, that really enjoys event planning and volunteering. So we allowed her to be in charge of our social and volunteer events, and we've had great success with expanding that leadership team. The second thing was that we also spotlight members. So if they don't have the bandwidth to maybe take on a leadership role, but they want to stay engaged, they get to spotlight in our monthly newsletter, highlighting their skills, talents, and interests.
There we go. Yeah, so similar to what Hillary mentioned, we also our members that are part of our EIG groups do also get that opportunity, right, to really kind of expand themselves, develop. Obviously, the leadership, to Hillary's point, obviously you have the leadership opportunities that are outside even just our day-to-day, company leadership roles. But I think, being able to learn how to do some project management, conflict resolution. I mean, all these pieces come into like critical thinking skills, learning how to be adaptable, improving your communication skills, right? Those are all things that naturally occur in the work that we do when you are part of that membership group. And then, even just as some of the simple, small things, right? We do a lot of these conversations on Zoom and Teams, right? Well, actually facilitating and managing a webinar or moderating a panelist event, right? That takes some skill to even learn how to use that software program. How do we navigate some of those things, and things becoming more technologically focused, right? Learning and gaining those skills that we may not do in our normal day-to-day work, especially for folks that are actually out in the field seeing members all day. You're not on a computer, you don't work those skills, but this is a space where they learn that and can gain that development in that space. So that's something that we've done a lot of. And mentoring occurs in the midst of all of this too, right? You can be a mentor to someone. We actually, part of our sort of succession planning in our ERG groups, we'll have a chair. For example, we have each one of ours has a chair, but then that chair that is sort of helping oversee that group will also kind of keep an eye out for folks that they're really taking some leadership role. They're very engaged and they're active and they're passionate about it. Maybe this could be a good person that, once my role is over, maybe they would be a good person to put in there. So now we're mentoring those folks that, day to day, we might be a frontline staff member that wouldn't have been a space that I've gained that knowledge and learned how to do some of that stuff. And then, because we have leader support, then we also have that line of help and assistance on how do we mentor people? How do we help them do those things? And so that's some of the things that we've been able to do in our day-to-day work for our members.
Great. So I'd say I'm looking at the clock here, and time is ticking by quickly with all this great information. Please, if you want to have any more questions, throw them in the chat, and we'll try to catch these. And I'll ask one question here, and then we will stay on after to continue the conversation if we understand if anybody would have to drop off at 11. So. This would be for Seema and Hillary. Can you share with us how your disability-focused ERG collaborates with other ERGs in your organization?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start that, and I will make it short and timely since I know we want to give as much information. What we do with our ERG groups, we do some collaborations by doing actually collaborative programs. So an example of one that we are doing actually that's going to be coming up in August is our ability group, which is our group for the individuals that have disabilities, as well as for the caregiver network. What they're doing is they are actually connecting with our veterans group, and they're going to be doing a programming that is focused on actually domestic violence during the domestic violence month. They're still kind of hashing things out, but as leaders as well as the group, they're kind of working through how do we want to do this? What kind of programming do we want to provide to our staff? And it's just neat seeing that connection, because you're going to see obviously folks from the military that will be involved, but then also folks that, that are in the military that then have disabilities over that, time. So those are some of the things that they're really going to kind of work through. So that's just one example.
And then at Capable, we always appreciate the opportunity to collaborate and celebrate intersectionality between the ERGs. An example is we will host a table at other ERGs events, and we always invite the other ERGs to attend our events. And then we will do combined events, as Don or Seema had mentioned. An example is we're co-hosting a volunteer water stop at the Columbus Marathon here in October with our military ERG and Capable.
Excellent. So thank you again to our wonderful panelists today. Keep those questions coming in the chat. And as we get to the end of the webinar, Julie, do you want to provide a quick summary of what we've covered?
Sure. Today we've learned about boosting engagement and disability-focused ERGs, and we've heard about best practices and insights for the disability-focused ERGs from our panelists. We covered the importance of having the organization's support and shared strategies on boosting employee engagement with your disability-focused ERG. And we want to thank again our guest panelists for sharing the ways in which their organizations support their employee resource groups.